Okay, hello. We're here to explain our unit plan for engineering, Introduction to Engineering, Design, and Technology. Our team consists of myself, Dr. James Hernandez, and go ahead.
Bishan Ezel.
Mhm.
And Mansur Amiri.
Yes, thank you. And the title of our unit plan is Impactful Innovations, Engineering Our World. Like I mentioned, it is geared more towards middle school students in the Introduction to Engineering, Design, and Technology courses. Fancy.
Yes. I'm gonna start with the engineering design process. On the first of E, we are having the engagement. In this part, we have activity. A student will start to do activity without knowing the engineering design process. We have a warm-up question, what they know so far about the engineering design process. And then we have activity, we provide them the material to create the tallest building or tallest tower or tallest bridge they can make in the small group of 3 or 4. And then at the end, we are going to have some reflection question, what they did without knowing they are going throughout the engineering design process. And we are going to end it with the wrap-up question. It's going to be the engagement. And the next E is going to be, James, could you, yeah. It's going to be about engineering design process. They are gonna learn the steps of the engineering design process. We are going to have a warm-up question here as well. They're gonna think about what they did like in the previous lesson, in the previous day. And if they identify three engineering design process and activity. And then we are going to have James, could you go forward? Yes, we are going to have activity. First, we are going to show them the video about the engineering design process. And then we are going to have some question about the video, what they understand about the engineering design process. And then we are going to move forward and explain the steps of the engineering design process they didn't recognize inside the video. We have a 6 step of engineering design process. As a teacher, we are going to go over each steps and explain them. And at the end, we are going to have a discussion question at the end of the next E.
Cool. Thank you. Next, we have the explanation phase, understanding the engineering design process. We have a warm-up. So what steps do you take when solving a problem? So the students will work in groups, in small groups, to answer these questions and discuss along with the rest of the class. And since this is the explanation section, we really want to really want to make sure we explain what that engineering design process is. The first step for the process is to define the problem. So students will be able to think of a way and research ways or problems in the real world that they can identify and possibly solve. They would also research using their tools that they have, either online or other methods. They'll develop a solution to the problem that they've identified, and design the solution. Okay. Step 5, they'll actually build a prototype, and this could be with initially using their sketch that they have to create a 3D model or something that they can use to think about their project or their solution. And then they're going to want to test and evaluate their solution. So they're going to record their results, they're going to collect data, and they're going to identify their strengths and weaknesses in their solution, in their projects. The success criteria will be if they met the requirements. We'd also watch a video called Defining Success, and that specifically goes into what does a successful engineering design or engineering project look like. And then lastly, we're going to have a wrap-up question with an exit ticket where the students will name 3 things that they learned. They would also ask themselves one question that they still have, and they'll also start applying what they learned or what they did and apply it to a project in the next phase. And next is the elaborate phase. That includes the engineering design challenge by creating a playground prototype. We're going to have a warm up. What is engineering design? Just to review what the students did through the engagement, exploration, and explanation phase. They're going to have various materials and tools to build their prototype. We want the students to brainstorm their playground. They're going to think about safety features, environmental impact, age-appropriate elements of their slides, and also accessibility opportunities. They will have some design constraints, such as like appropriate heights for a playground, and environmental considerations such as weather resistance and sustainable materials. And next, they would have some reflection questions to think about what type of principles are they considering when they're designing and creating their playgrounds. The prototype development, where they're going to understand the instructional integrity, the integrity of their projects, proportions. They're going to label their components in their models, in their prototypes. Next will be the team presenting. This won't be like a full final presentation, but it will be a preliminary presentation to get some feedback from the students and the teacher. And they'll have some reflection questions such as what forces are at work, how does gravity affect their design? If they make something too large, how is that going to hold up when it comes to materials and things like that? And again, also their environmental impact. They will have some assessment criteria. They will have a rubric, which is included in our unit lesson. And it's important to keep a good project timeline. This is just an example, but day 1, they can do brainstorm initial designs. 2, they can start creating their prototypes. 3, they can test it. And then, of course, their final presentations that will lead into the evaluation phase.
So now we're at the project presentation and evaluation stage of our project. And this is going to be so exciting because this is where we're going to give the students their feedback, and maybe, just maybe, they'll have to reinvent whatever they've done. Next, please. So each group is going to present their playground design. And then, like I said before, we're going to focus on giving constructive feedback. The presentation requirements are listed before you. Just make sure that if you have a larger class, you only limit them to 5 to 7 minutes. Key presentation elements would include explaining their design choices, maybe particularly telling about the safety considerations and some environmental impact. The peer review guidelines will take into consideration that they need to take notes during others' presentations, consider both the strengths and areas for improvement for those groups so that they are able to give the constructive feedback as well as the teacher, and focus on some design elements, not their personal opinion. Here are a few feedback questions that are available for the teams as well, and for the instructor who is going to obviously give the most important, well, I wouldn't say the most important, but give feedback as well. When it comes to our reflection process, That's always important because we want students to be able to reflect on what they've done to maybe enhance whatever designs that they've come up with. The digital documentation that they would present or turn in as well will, of course, be the presentation and probably some questions that they could post for the other students. The teacher could do that as well, post some students or post some questions for the students, sorry, that they will be able to answer as they review their information. The final improvement would include, once they receive their feedback, the teams would go back and they would look to see maybe if there were some concerns they could address or some cost implications, or maybe just the reason behind the changes that they are anticipating making. And then that leads to their redesign phase. And of course, we have wrap-up questions that you will be able to ask your students. How might the engineering skills that they learned today help solve real world problems in their community or their school?
Awesome. Thank you. That was our presentation of our 5E unit lesson. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye.